Jiwon wiped the sweat from his forehead as he loaded the last cargo container onto the transport cart. Space Station Meridian 7 was always busy, but today felt different. The air recyclers were making strange noises, and several alien merchants had already closed their shops early. He was a simple man with a simple job. For 3 years, he had worked as a cargo hauler on the station, moving boxes and equipment from one sector to another. The pay was not great, but it was honest work. Every credit he saved went into a small account. Someday, he hoped to buy his own transport ship. Someday, he would be his own boss. The station was home to dozens of alien species. Some were tall and covered in scales. Others were small and floated in containment suits. Jiwon had learned to nod politely and stay out of their way. Humans were new to the galactic community. Most aliens saw them as primitive creatures who had barely learned to leave their own planet. That afternoon, the alarms started. Red lights flashed throughout the lower commercial district. A computerized voice announced in multiple languages that there was an environmental breach in Sector 7. Toxic gas was leaking into the market areas. All beings needed to evacuate immediately. Jiwon dropped his equipment and ran toward the nearest exit like everyone else. The corridors filled with panicking aliens. Some had too many legs, some had wings. All of them pushed and shoved toward safety. The air already smelled wrong, like burning metal and something sour. He was almost at the evacuation point when he heard it. A high-pitched sound, almost like singing, but full of fear. Most beings would not notice it in the chaos. But Jiwon had good ears. He stopped and looked around. The crowd pushed past him, knocking him sideways. There, in an abandoned market stall, he saw them. 3 small creatures were trapped behind a fallen metal beam. They had smooth, crystalline skin that glowed with soft blue light. Their large eyes were leaking some kind of clear fluid. They were children, and they were crying. Jiwon recognized them as Velithrons. He had seen adults of their species before, tall and elegant, moving through the station like living sculptures. These children were small, maybe waist-high to him. One of them reached out through the gap, their 3-fingered hand trembling. The smart thing would be to keep running. The toxic levels were rising. His throat already felt tight. Station security would come for them, right? Someone else would help them. But even as he thought this, Jiwon was moving toward them. His feet carried him back into the danger zone, while his brain screamed at him to run. He grabbed the fallen beam and pulled. It did not move. The metal was too heavy, and it was wedged under a collapsed wall panel. The smallest child made that singing sound again. Jiwon could see the fear in their eyes. They did not understand why the big human was not helping them. They did not know he was trying. He looked around desperately. His cargo cart was still where he left it, about 20 meters away. On it was his hydraulic lift, the tool he used for heavy containers. Jiwon ran back through the thickening haze, grabbed the lift, and dragged it to the stall. His skin was starting to burn. The atmospheric pressure in this sector was all wrong. Velithrons breathed a different mix of gases than humans. What was normal air for them was poison for him. He could feel his lips cracking and something wet running from his nose. Blood, probably. Jiwon positioned the lift under the beam and activated it. The machine whined in protest. The beam shifted just a little. The children scrambled back, frightened by the noise. He pushed the lift harder. His vision was getting blurry. The beam rose higher, inch by inch. "Come on," he whispered, though they could not understand him. "Come on, little ones. Move." The oldest child understood first. They grabbed the 2 smaller ones and pulled them through the gap. As soon as they were clear, Jiwon released the lift. The beam crashed down with a sound like thunder. But they were not safe yet. The exit was far away, and the children were slow. The smallest one fell, their legs not working properly in the panic. Jiwon did not think. He just scooped up all 3 children in his arms. They were lighter than he expected, their bodies designed for different gravity. He ran. His lungs felt like fire. Every breath was agony. The children clung to him, their crystalline fingers digging into his shirt. He pulled off his jacket with one hand and wrapped it around them, trying to protect them from the toxic air. The world was turning gray at the edges. Jiwon stumbled but kept moving. He could see the evacuation point ahead. Figures in protective suits were waving, shouting something he could not hear. His legs felt like they were made of stone. So heavy, so tired. He fell to his knees just as someone in a security suit reached him. Strong hands took the children from his arms. Someone else was putting a breathing mask on his face. Clean air rushed into his lungs, but it was too late. The damage was done. Jiwon saw one of the children looking back at him, the oldest one. Their eyes were wide and glowing brighter now. They were saying something, their small mouth moving, but he could not hear the words. Then everything went dark. When Jiwon woke up, the first thing he noticed was that nothing hurt. That was strange. He remembered pain, so much pain. His whole body had been burning. Now there was nothing but a gentle floating feeling. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was white and smooth, with soft lights that did not hurt to look at. Medical Bay. He was in the station's medical bay. A face appeared above him. It was Velithran, but adult-sized. Female, he thought, based on the slightly different structure of the facial features. Her crystalline skin was a deeper blue than the children, with patterns that swirled like water. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with something he could not name. She was beautiful. The woman placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. Her skin was cool and smooth. She spoke, and his translator implant kicked in, turning her musical language into words he could understand. "You saved my children," she said. Her voice was soft but intense. "You risked everything for them. For strangers." Jiwon tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. She held up a hand and pressed a button. Water flowed into his mouth from a tube, sweet and cool. 3 days, she continued. "You have been sleeping for 3 days. The doctor said you nearly died. The toxic exposure, the atmospheric pressure, it should have killed you." "The children?" Jiwon managed to croak. For the first time, the woman smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her glow even brighter. "They are perfect, healthy, safe. Because of you." She reached out and touched his face with her cool fingers. "I am Nari, and you, human, have created a bond that cannot be broken." Jiwon did not understand what she meant. He was too tired to ask. But as he drifted back to sleep, he felt that cool hand still touching his face, and something deep inside told him that his simple life had just become very complicated. Jiwon spent the next 2 days in the medical bay, recovering. The doctors were amazed that he survived at all. They showed him images of his lungs and skin tissue, pointing at the damage and shaking their heads. Any other human would have died within minutes of that exposure. Something about his stubbornness, they said, had kept him going. Nari visited him every day. She brought him strange foods from her world, things that glowed or changed color when touched. Most of it tasted terrible to his human tongue, but he tried to be polite. She would sit beside his bed and talk about her children, her voice full of warmth and love. Hyun, the oldest at 10 years, was brave and curious. He wanted to be an explorer when he grew up. Sumi, the middle child at 7, loved science and could name every species on the station. Little Taeyang, only 5, just wanted to play all day and never understood why adults look so worried all the time. "They want to meet you properly," Nari said on the 3rd day. "They have been asking about the human who saved them every hour." "I am not sure what to say to them," Jiwon admitted. He had never been good with children. He did not have siblings or young cousins. Kids were mysterious creatures to him. Nari's expression became serious. "Before they come, you must understand something important. In my culture, what you did has great meaning. You saved a child's life. 3 children. You risked your own death to protect them. Anyone would have done the same, Ji-won said, though he knew this was not true. He had seen dozens of beings run past those children without stopping. No, Nari said firmly, not anyone. And that is why you are now bound by Lumeris. She explained it slowly, making sure his translator caught every word. Lumeris was a sacred bond in Velithran culture. When someone saved a child from death, they became linked to that family forever. It was not just gratitude. It was a spiritual connection that could not be dismissed or refused. But I saved 3 children, Nari continued, her light patterns shifting to colors he did not recognize. This has never happened before. Triple Lumeris. The scholars do not even have a name for it. Ji-won felt uncomfortable. Look, I appreciate the thanks, but I do not need anything. I just did what was right. Nari's colors shifted to sharp red. You dismiss my family's honor? What? No, I just meant... To refuse Lumeris is to say our honor means nothing. That my children's lives have no value. Her voice was cold now, distant. Ji-won realized he had made a mistake. In trying to be humble, he had insulted her. I am sorry, I did not understand. Please tell me what I need to do. The red faded from her skin. You must accept a place in our family. Traditionally, the rescuer would visit our home, share meals, and receive gifts. But with Triple Lumeris, more is required. She took a deep breath. You must become part of our household, guardian to the children, teacher, protector. You want me to live with you? Ji-won's voice came out higher than he intended. It is not about want. It is about honor and balance. You gave life. We must give life back to you in return. A place, a purpose, a family. Before Ji-won could respond, the door burst open. 3 small Velithrans rushed in, followed by a flustered nurse trying to catch them. The children swarmed around his bed, their lights flashing excited yellows and greens. The oldest, Hyun, stood tall and formal. He placed his hand over his heart, a gesture Ji-won had seen adult Velithrans use. Thank you, human Ji-won. You are the bravest being I have ever met. Sumi pushed forward, her large eyes studying him with intense interest. Is it true that humans only have 2 lungs? And your blood is red? Can I see? Just a little? Little Taiyang simply climbed onto the bed and hugged him, pressing their cool face against his arm. They said nothing, but Ji-won could feel them trembling slightly. This was the child he had carried, the one who had fallen in the panic. Something tight in Ji-won's chest loosened. These were not mysterious creatures. They were just scared kids who were happy to be alive, and somehow, without planning it, he already cared about them. I am glad you are all safe, he said quietly. The children stayed for an hour, asking him endless questions about Earth and humans. Did he really come from a planet with only 1 moon? Was it true humans could eat almost anything? Had he ever seen the ocean? Nari watched from the doorway, her colors soft and pleased. When the children finally left with promises to visit tomorrow, she approached his bed again. You see, she said simply, they have already bonded with you. To reject Lumeris now would break their hearts. Ji-won wanted to argue, but he could not. The truth was, he had enjoyed the last hour more than any time he could remember in years. The children's joy was infectious. Their innocence made him want to be better, braver, kinder, but still, doubt gnawed at him. Nari, I am just a cargo worker. I have no education, no special skills. I live in a tiny apartment in the worst part of the station. What could I possibly teach your children? You can teach them courage, Nari said. You can teach them that doing the right thing matters more than safety or profit. You can teach them to see beyond species and status. She paused. These are lessons I cannot give them alone. The next morning, station security came to see him. The news was not good. His cargo company had fired him for abandoning his duties during the evacuation. It did not matter that he saved 3 lives. The company only cared that he left expensive equipment behind. The security officer looked embarrassed as he explained that Jiwon also had medical debts. The station had covered most of his treatment, but there were fees for the private room and special equipment. It was not a huge amount, but with no job, he had no way to pay it. When the officer left, Jiwon sat on the bed and stared at his hands. In one day, he had lost everything. His job. His savings would be gone after the medical fees. His dream of owning a ship felt further away than ever. There was a knock on the door. Nari entered, and somehow he knew she had heard everything. "My offer stands," she said. "Live with us. Guard the children. I will provide housing in our sector, food, and payment that is far more than your cargo work." She moved closer. "Please, Jiwon, let us repay what you have given us." He looked up at her. This beautiful alien woman with her crystalline skin and her 3 wonderful children. She was offering him a way out of the hole he had fallen into. But it was more than that. She was offering him something he had not had since leaving Earth. A family. "I do not know anything about Velithran culture," he said slowly. "I will probably make mistakes." "Then we will teach you." "I might accidentally insult someone or break some rule I do not know about." "Then we will forgive you." "Your people already think humans are primitive. Having me around might make things worse for you." Nari smiled, her colors shifting to warm gold. "Let them think what they want. My children are alive because of you. That is all that matters." Jiwon took a deep breath. He thought about his empty apartment and his vanished job. He thought about the children's glowing faces and the way little Taiyang had hugged him. He thought about Nari's eyes, so full of hope and something else he did not dare name yet. "Okay," he said. "I will do it. I will accept the Lumeris." Nari's entire body flashed bright gold, a joy so pure it filled the room with light. She reached out and took his hands in her cool ones. "Thank you," she whispered. "You will not regret this." As she held his hands, Jiwon felt the weight of the decision settle over him. His simple life was truly over now. Whatever came next would be complicated and strange and probably difficult. But looking at Nari's smile, he thought maybe complicated would not be so bad after all. Moving into Nari's home was like stepping onto another planet. Her residential district was designed for aquatic-based species, with different air pressure and humidity levels. For the first week, Jiwon had to wear a special environmental suit just to breathe properly. The suit made him look like a clumsy astronaut, and the children thought it was hilarious. The apartment itself was beautiful in a strange way. Instead of walls with pictures or screens, there were crystalline chambers that hummed and glowed with different colors. Nari explained that Velithrans shared information through resonance patterns. A single chamber could hold books worth of data, all transmitted through light and sound. The furniture confused him. Velithran chairs were more like smooth platforms that adjusted to body temperature. Their version of a bed was a shallow pool filled with special gel that somehow stayed suspended in the air. Jiwon got his own room with human-style furniture. But even that felt wrong at first. Everything was too clean, too expensive, too perfect. Food was the biggest challenge. Velithrans did not eat solid meals like humans. They consumed synthesized nutrient paste that changed flavor based on touch. To them, it was delicious. To Jiwon, it tasted like wet plastic with a hint of metal. Nari had to order special human food supplements, and even those were bland compared to real Earth food. But the hardest part was the customs. Velithrans had rules for everything. Showing your palms meant respect. Touching heads was reserved for intimate family members. Speaking in certain tones during morning hours was considered rude, and never ever mention the glow patterns on someone's skin unless they displayed them intentionally. Jiwon made mistakes constantly. He once accidentally touched Nari's head while reaching for something, and she went completely still for 3 full minutes. He did not realize until later that he had essentially kissed her in front of the children. His face burned red for hours after Hyun explained it. Despite the difficulties, something wonderful was happening. The children were learning from him, and he was learning from them. Hyun followed him everywhere, asking endless questions about human history and courage. "Why did you come back for us?" the boy asked one evening. "You could have died." Jiwon thought about it carefully. "Because some things are more important than being safe. Your lives mattered more than mine in that moment." "But humans believe all lives have equal value," Hyun said, repeating something from his studies. "So how could our lives matter more?" "Equal value does not mean equal need. You were in danger. I was not. Simple as that." Hyun's colors shifted thoughtfully. This kind of practical logic was very different from traditional Velithran philosophy, which focused on hierarchy and predetermined duty. The boy was starting to question things, to think for himself instead of just accepting what he was told. Sumi turned Jiwon into her personal research project. She recorded everything about him, how fast his heart beat, how much he needed to sleep, what made him laugh. She filled 3 data chambers with observations about human behavior. "Did you know you make 53 different facial expressions?" she told him excitedly. "Velithrans only make 12. Your face is so busy." "Is that bad?" Jiwon asked. "No, it is amazing. You can communicate so much without words. I wish I had a face like yours." Jiwon smiled. "I think your face is perfect exactly as it is." Sumi's colors went bright pink, which he had learned meant happiness mixed with embarrassment. She hugged his leg and ran off to add the interaction to her notes. Little Taeyang was the simplest, and yet the most profound. The 5-year-old had decided that Jiwon was family, and that was that. He started calling him Appa Jiwon, which Nari explained meant something like Father Jiwon in their language. "Should I correct him?" Jiwon asked nervously. "I am not actually his father." Nari's expression was unreadable. "Do you want him to stop?" Jiwon thought about how Taeyang held his hand during walks, or how the boy fell asleep on his lap during quiet evenings. "No," he admitted. "I do not want him to stop." "Then let him call you what his heart knows is true." The weeks passed, and Jiwon found himself genuinely happy. He woke up to Taeyang jumping on his bed. He spent mornings teaching the children about Earth customs and human thinking. Afternoons were for play and exploration. Evenings were for quiet conversations with Nari while the children did their homework. Those evening conversations became his favorite part of the day. Nari would sit beside him, close enough that he could see the tiny patterns in her crystalline skin. They talked about everything: her work as a diplomat, his memories of Earth, the differences between their species, the similarities that surprised them both. "Velithrans mate for life," she told him one night. "We choose one partner and bond permanently. No divorce, no separation. Only death parts us." "Humans are similar," Jiwon said. "We make promises to stay together forever. We do not always keep them, but we try." "What about you? Did you leave someone behind on Earth?" "No. I was always alone. I had work friends, but no one close. No family after my parents died." He paused. "I think that is why I left Earth. Nothing was holding me there." Nari's hand moved closer to his on the smooth crystal table between them. Not touching, but close. "And now?" "Now I feel less alone than I have in years." Her colors shifted to soft purple, an emotion he could not quite identify. But her eyes were warm, and that was enough. Not everyone was happy about Jiwon's presence. Other Velithron families in the district whispered when he walked past. Their children were not allowed to play with Hyun, Sumi, and Taeyang anymore. Some parents complained that Nari's children were acting strangely, talking back and asking too many questions. The whispers reached the diplomatic circles where Nari worked. Counselor Do-yun, a powerful politician, made his opinions very clear during a council meeting that Ji-won attended to watch Nari present a trade agreement. "It is concerning," Do-yun announced loudly, "that our esteemed colleague allows a primitive species to influence her children. Humans are barely civilized. They still war with each other over resources and ideology." Nari stood tall, her colors flashing warning red. "The human in question saved my children's lives while your kind ran past them. Perhaps we should judge beings by their actions, not their species." "One act of instinct does not prove intelligence," Do-hyun countered. "Animals will protect young as well. It does not make them equal to us." Ji-won felt his hands clench into fists. He wanted to stand up and argue, but Nari had warned him that humans speaking in council chambers was against protocol. He had to stay silent. "Then let us test this theory," Do-hyun said with a smile that was not kind. "If humans are truly our equals, if this Ji-won is truly worthy of living among us and teaching our children, let him prove it. Let him take a wisdom trial." The chamber went silent. Wisdom trials were ancient Velithron traditions designed to test judgment and strategic thinking. They were difficult even for educated Velithrons. For a human with no formal training in their culture, it would be nearly impossible. Nari's colors paled. "That is not necessary. Ji-won is here as family, not as a candidate for citizenship." "Precisely my point," Do-hyun said smoothly. "He receives the benefits of our society without proving his worth. The trial would be fair. If he passes, I will personally support his permanent residence. If he fails—" The counselor shrugged. "Then perhaps he should return to working with cargo, where humans belong." Other council members murmured in agreement. The political pressure was building. Nari looked trapped, her colors shifting rapidly between anger and fear. Finally, she straightened her shoulders. "Very well, Ji-won will take the trial, and when he succeeds, you will apologize publicly for your prejudice." Do-yun's smile widened. "Agreed. The trial will begin in 3 days." That night, Nari paced their shared living space, while Ji-won sat quietly. The children were asleep, unaware of the coming challenge. "I am sorry," Nari said for the 10th time. "I should have refused. This is my fault." "What exactly is this trial?" Ji-won asked calmly. She explained it in detail. He would have to mediate a dispute between 3 different alien species who had been feuding over resource rights for generations. He would have 48 hours to create a solution that satisfied everyone. Failure would mean public humiliation and likely exile from the station's diplomatic districts. "I will do it," Ji-won said simply. "You do not understand how hard this is. Trained diplomats have failed this exact scenario." He stood and took her hands in his. It was a human gesture, one he had not dared try before. Her skin was cool and smooth. "Nari, I risked my life in toxic air for your children. I can handle some angry aliens arguing about resources." For a moment, her colors went completely white, like snow or moonlight. Then she laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a breeze. "You are either the bravest human alive or the most foolish." "Maybe both." She squeezed his hands gently. "Either way, you are ours now. And we do not give up on family." The trial chamber was designed to intimidate. High ceilings stretched into darkness. Crystalline walls amplified every sound. 3 separate delegation areas surrounded a central platform where Ji-won stood, feeling very small and very human. The feuding species were already waiting. On his left were the Korathi, insect-like beings with hard shells and too many eyes. On his right were the Fel, gaseous entities contained in mechanical suits. Directly ahead were the Murathi, amphibious creatures that glistened under the chamber lights. All three groups glared at each other with hatred built over decades. Counselor Do-hyun sat in the observation gallery, looking pleased. Nari was there too, her colors dim with worry. The children had wanted to come, but this was no place for young ones. The dispute was about a mineral-rich asteroid belt in neutral space. All three species claimed historical rights to mine it. The Korathi said their ancestors discovered it first. The Fel said they had a legal contract from an old galactic government. The Murathi claimed it was part of their traditional breeding grounds. They had been arguing for 30 years. Several small battles had already been fought. A Velithran judge explained the rules. Ji-won had 48 hours to propose a solution. If all three species accepted it, he would pass. If even one rejected it, he would fail. He could access the station's legal database but could not consult with anyone outside the chamber. Food and rest facilities were provided. "Begin," the judge announced, and left Ji-won alone with the feuding groups. The first 6 hours were chaos. Each species wanted to speak first, to explain why they were right and the others were wrong. They spoke over each other, getting louder and angrier. The Korathi clicked their mandibles aggressively. The Fel's suits hummed with irritation. The Murathi slapped their tails on the floor. Ji-won tried traditional diplomatic approaches, the kind he had watched Nari use, asking each group to present their case formally, trying to find common ground, suggesting compromises based on legal precedent. Nothing worked. They had heard all of this before from better diplomats. By hour 8, Ji-won was exhausted and getting nowhere. He excused himself to the rest area and sat down with his head in his hands. This was impossible. How could he succeed where trained professionals had failed? Then he remembered what he told Hyun. Some things required practical logic, not fancy philosophy. He went back to the chamber with a new approach. Instead of treating them as three unified groups, he spoke to individuals within each delegation. He asked the youngest Korathi warrior what she actually wanted from the asteroid belt. Not what her elders wanted, but what she personally needed. "My family mines for fuel," she admitted quietly. "We need the asteroids during the cold season when our home world freezes." He asked a Fel engineer the same question. "We need rare minerals for our suit technology. Without them, our children cannot survive outside our home atmosphere." A Marathi hunter spoke last. "The asteroids provide shelter for the prey fish that migrate there. Our people starve without the hunting grounds." Ji-won started writing everything down. Not legal claims or historical arguments, but actual needs. Fuel during cold season, rare minerals for survival technology, hunting grounds for food. By hour 16, he had created detailed profiles of what each species actually required versus what they were demanding. The pattern became clear. The fighting was not really about ownership. It was about survival and fear that their needs would not be met. He spent the next 12 hours going through the station's database, looking not at diplomatic treaties, but at resource distribution charts, seasonal patterns, and migration data. He drew maps and timelines until his eyes blurred. At hour 32, he requested a meeting with all three delegations together. They came reluctantly, still glaring at each other. Ji-won activated the holographic display he had prepared. It showed the asteroid belt divided into color-coded sections based on location and composition. "This is not about who owns the belt," he began. "It is about making sure everyone gets what they need to survive." He pointed to the outer asteroids, rich in fuel compounds. "The Korathi need fuel during cold season, which happens to be when these asteroids drift closest to your homeworld. Perfect timing. You can mine them for 6 months of the year without interference." The Korathi delegation perked up, their mandibles clicking with interest. He pointed to the inner asteroids, which contained the rare minerals. The FEL needs specific minerals that only form in high-pressure asteroid cores. These asteroids here have the highest concentration, but they are dangerous to approach. However, FEL technology excels at navigating hazardous environments. You can mine them year-round because no one else wants to risk it. The FEL's suits hummed thoughtfully. Finally, he indicated the middle belt, where smaller asteroids clustered together. The Marathi need the ecosystem that forms around these asteroids. The prey fish you hunt do not care who owns the rocks. They care about the algae and minerals that collect in the clusters. These specific asteroids are perfect breeding grounds, but they are too small and worthless for mining operations. The other species would not want them anyway. The Marathi hunter leaned forward, studying the map. "Here is my proposal," Jiwan continued. "Stop fighting over ownership. Instead, create a shared access agreement based on seasonal rotation and resource specialization. Each species gets priority access to the areas that serve their actual needs. No one owns everything, but everyone gets what they need to survive." "But what about legal rights?" a Karathi elder objected. "Historical claims?" "What about them?" Jiwan asked simply. "Do historical claims feed your families? Do they keep your children alive? You have spent 30 years fighting over pieces of paper while your people suffer. Maybe it is time to try something that actually works." The chamber went silent. This kind of direct, practical talk was very different from typical diplomatic language. It was almost rude in its simplicity, but it was also honest. "What about security?" the FEL leader asked. "How do we ensure the others honor this agreement?" Jiwan had anticipated this. "Each species assigns a small patrol unit to the belt, not to fight, but to monitor. If someone violates the agreement, all 3 species respond together to enforce it. Your security comes from mutual benefit, not from threats. And if the prey fish migrate away from those asteroids," a Marathi elder challenged, "then we adjust. This is not a permanent solution carved in stone. It is a flexible agreement that changes based on reality. We meet once a year to review and adjust as needed." He looked at each delegation in turn. "You have been trying to win a war. I am offering you a chance to stop fighting and start living. The choice is yours." The next 15 hours were tense. Each delegation argued internally, debated the merits, looked for loopholes. Jiwan answered questions, adjusted minor details, but kept the core proposal the same. He survived on coffee and nervous energy. At hour 47, 1 hour before the deadline, the Marathi delegation announced they would accept the proposal. 30 minutes later, the FEL agreed. The Karathi were the last, arguing until only 10 minutes remained on the clock. Finally, the Karathi elder stood. "We accept. This human's logic is strange, but it is sound." The judge's voice echoed through the chamber. "By unanimous agreement, the trial is complete. Jiwan of Earth has succeeded." The observation gallery erupted in surprised chatter. Nari's colors flashed brilliant gold. Even some of the council members who had doubted him looked impressed. Only Councillor Dohyun sat in silence, his colors flat and gray. The formal ceremony came later that evening. Jiwon stood before the full council while the judge announced the results. The 3 species had already begun implementing the agreement, eager to end decades of conflict. Do-hyun stood as required by the terms he had set. His voice was stiff. "I acknowledge that the human succeeded where others failed. I was wrong to dismiss his capabilities based on his species. The Council recognizes Jiwon's right to permanent residence in our diplomatic districts." It was not a warm apology, but it was public and official. That was what mattered. After the ceremony, Nari found him in the quiet corridor outside. She did not say anything, just wrapped her cool arms around him in a very human gesture of affection. They stood there for a long time. "You did not just pass the trial," she whispered. You created peace where there was only war. Do you understand how rare that is? Ji-won held her carefully, aware that every Velithran who passed by could see them. He did not care anymore. I just did what made sense. That is what makes you special. You see clearly when others are blinded by tradition and pride. She pulled back slightly, her hands still on his shoulders. Her colors shifted to deep purple again, that emotion he still could not name. Ji-won, I need to tell you something. The Lumeris bond, it was real at first. A sacred duty. But somewhere along the way, it became more than that for me. His heart started beating faster. More. I have feelings for you, real feelings, not obligation. The children love you as family, and I... She paused, searching for words. I have come to care for you in ways that go beyond gratitude or honor. Before he could respond, they heard small feet running down the corridor. The children burst into view with Hyun in the lead. Appa Ji-won, you won! Taeyang yelled, crashing into his legs. Sumi was right behind, her colors bright with pride. I recorded everything! You were amazing! Wait until I analyze your negotiation patterns. Hyun approached more formally, but his colors betrayed his joy. You have brought honor to our family. I am proud to call you guardian. Ji-won looked at the three glowing children. Then at Nari's hopeful expression. His heart felt so full it might burst. This strange, unexpected family had become the most important thing in his life. That night, Ji-won could not sleep. He lay in his bed thinking about Nari's words. She had feelings for him, real feelings. And if he was honest with himself, he had feelings for her too. But could it work? A human and a Velithran? Their biology was different. Their cultures were different. What if he made a mistake and hurt her? What if he disappointed the children? Around midnight, he gave up on sleep and went to the common area. He was surprised to find Nari there, standing by the large window that looked out at the stars. Cannot sleep either? She asked without turning around. Too much in my head, he admitted, joining her at the window. They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Nari spoke. I have been researching human bonding customs. Marriage, you call it. Making promises to stay together forever. Yes, Ji-won said carefully, though humans sometimes break those promises. Velithrans cannot. Once we bond, it is permanent. Our biology changes. Our light patterns synchronize. We become part of each other. She turned to face him. I would want that with you, if you would want it with me. Ji-won's breath caught. Nari, I am just a cargo worker who got lucky. You are a diplomat, noble-born, important. You could bond with someone of your own status, someone who... She placed a cool finger on his lips. I could bond with someone who ran past my dying children, or I could bond with someone who ran toward them. Status means nothing compared to character. What about the children? What if I fail them? What if... You have already been their father in every way that matters. Taeyang calls you Appa. Hyun looks to you for guidance. Sumi studies you like you are the most fascinating being in the galaxy. Her colors shifted to warm gold. They have already chosen you. The only question is whether you will choose us. Ji-won opened his mouth to respond, but alarm sirens cut through the air. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the apartment. A computerized voice announced that all residents should stay in their homes. There was a security situation. Nari immediately went to check on the children while Ji-won activated the information panel. What he saw made his blood run cold. A radical anti-human group had planted an explosive device in the station's core. They were demanding that all humans be expelled from the galactic community, or they would detonate it in 6 hours. The device was sophisticated, designed to cause a chain reaction that would destroy the entire station. 40,000 beings lived on Meridian 7. They would all die. Security forces were already trying to disarm it, but the panel showed live footage of the attempt. The device was rigged with multiple fail-safes. One wrong move and it would explode immediately. Ji-won stared at the image of the device. Something about it was familiar. The casing design, the connection ports, the way the wires were arranged. He had seen something similar before, years ago when he worked cargo. There was a weapons dealer named Yoon who operated in the lower sectors. Ji-won had reported him to authorities after discovering illegal explosives in a shipment. Yoon had been arrested but released on a technicality. This device looked exactly like Yoon's work, which meant Ji-won might be the only person who understood how it was built. He called station security and explained his suspicion. They confirmed that Yoon was suspected, but that they could not get anyone close enough to disarm the device. The core was a zero-atmosphere zone. The explosive was positioned in an area that would require someone to be exposed to vacuum for at least 20 minutes. 20 minutes in vacuum would kill any being even with protective gear. "I know how the device works," Ji-won told them. "If you get me there, I can disarm it." "Impossible. You would die from exposure before completing the task." "Maybe, but everyone dies if I do not try." The security officer started to argue, but Ji-won ended the call. He turned to find Nari standing behind him, her colors pale with fear. She had heard everything. "No," she said simply. "I will not allow it." "It is not your choice," Ji-won said gently. 40,000 people, Nari. Your children are on this station. And you are about to become their father. They need you." The children appeared in the doorway, woken by the alarms. Taeyang was crying. Sumi looked scared. Even brave Hyun had colors that flickered with fear. Ji-won knelt down so he was at their level. "Listen to me. Do you remember when I told Hyun that some things are more important than being safe?" "Protecting family," Hyun whispered. "Yes. And everyone on this station is part of our bigger family. I have a chance to protect them, but it might be dangerous." Taeyang grabbed his hand. "Do not go. Please, Appa Ji-won. Stay here with us." Ji-won's heart broke. He pulled all 3 children into a hug. "I love you 3. You have made me happier than I ever thought possible. But I need to do this. For you. For everyone." Sumi was crying now too. "But you might die. I do not want you to die." "Then I will try very hard not to," he said, forcing a smile. "I am stubborn, remember? The doctor said I should have died before, but I did not." He stood and looked at Nari. "If something happens to me, tell them." "You will tell them yourself," Nari interrupted, her colors flashing fierce red. "Because you are coming back. You must come back." Ji-won kissed her forehead. A human gesture that made her glow bright white. "I will try." The security team met him at the core access point. They gave him the best vacuum suit they had and explained what he would face. No atmosphere, extreme temperature changes, and radiation exposure. Even if he survived the initial entry, the time limit was cruel. 23 minutes, the team leader said. "After that, your suit integrity will fail completely. If you are not out by then, you die." Ji-won nodded and entered the airlock. As the air evacuated, he felt the suit compress around him. The core entrance opened, revealing a vast space filled with the station's power systems and life support machinery. In the center, attached to a critical junction, was the explosive device. He pushed off and floated toward it, using the suit's small thrusters. Every movement had to be careful and precise. In zero gravity with limited mobility, even reaching the device was challenging. The countdown in his helmet showed 18 minutes remaining when he reached the bomb. Up close, he confirmed it was definitely Yoon's work. The dealer always used the same trigger mechanism, which was both his trademark and his weakness. Ji-won started working, his gloved hands clumsy but determined. Disconnect the power source first. Carefully remove the external casing. Locate the master control board. 15 minutes. His suit was already showing warning signs: temperature regulation failing, oxygen consumption higher than projected. He found the control board. As he suspected, Yoon had installed his signature failsafe bypass. Most people would think you had to cut the red wire first. But Yoon always reversed the logic. Cut the red wire and it exploded. You had to cut the green wire, then the blue, then safely remove the red. 12 minutes. His hands were going numb. The suit's heating system was offline. Green wire cut. The device did not explode. So far, so good. 10 minutes. His vision was starting to blur. Oxygen deprivation, probably. He blinked hard and focused on the blue wire. The security team was shouting in his helmet, telling him his vital signs were critical. He ignored them and cut the blue wire. Still no explosion. 8 minutes. Now the hard part. The red wire was connected to 3 different components. He had to trace which one was the real trigger and which were decoys. His fingers would not cooperate. The gloves were too thick, and he could not feel anything. He tore off one glove, exposing his hand to vacuum. The pain was immediate and terrible, but now he could feel the wires. 5 minutes. His hand was freezing, the skin turning black, but he could work. He traced the wires carefully, found the real trigger, attached the bypass connector that would safe the device. 3 minutes. Blood was coming from his nose. His ears were screaming with pressure pain. He cut the final wire. The device powered down. Lights that had been blinking red turned green. It was done. Ji-won tried to push away from the device, back toward the exit. His thrusters did not respond. The suit was completely dead. He was floating in the core, unable to move, with less than 2 minutes of life support remaining. This was it. He had succeeded, but he would not survive to see it matter. He thought of Nari's beautiful colors. The children's laughter, the family he had found and was about to lose. Then something grabbed him. Figures in advanced security suits racing through the core. They pulled him toward the exit, moving faster than he thought possible. He passed out before they reached the airlock. Ji-won woke to soft humming. Not machine sounds, but something musical. He opened his eyes slowly and saw Nari sitting beside his bed, her colors pulsing in a gentle rhythm. She was singing a Velithran lullaby. "You are awake," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "The doctors said you should not be. They said you took too much damage." He tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. She gave him water, supporting his head gently. "You disarmed it," she continued. "You saved everyone. But your hand—" She touched his right hand carefully. It was wrapped in bandages and some kind of healing gel. "Will I lose it?" he croaked. "No, but it will never be the same. Nerve damage from the vacuum exposure." Ji-won flexed his fingers slowly. They moved, but stiffly. He could live with that. The door opened, and the children rushed in. They swarmed his bed, careful not to hurt him but needing to touch him, to confirm he was real. "You came back," Tae-yang sobbed. "You came back to us." "Of course I did," Ji-won whispered. "I promised to try, remember?" Later, after the children fell asleep in chairs around his bed, Nari took his damaged hand carefully. "The Velithran Council met today. They have made a decision about you." "Am I being expelled after all?" he asked, only half joking. "No. They are creating a new designation, Lumeris Eternal. It recognizes you not just as a guardian, but as family, true family." She paused. "If you accept, you become legally our family, the children's father, my life partner." "Is that what you want?" Ji-won asked. "More than anything." Her colors shifted to that deep purple he finally understood. It was love. "Will you stay with us? Forever?" Ji-won looked at the children sleeping peacefully, safe because he had protected them. He looked at Nari, this incredible woman who had offered him a home when he had nothing. He thought about how empty his life had been before and how full it was now. "Yes," he said, "I will stay. Forever." Nari's entire body flashed brilliant gold, joy so pure it lit up the medical bay. She pressed her forehead to his carefully, the most intimate gesture in Velithran culture. "Then we are bound," she whispered. "In your way and in mine." 6 months later, Ji-Wan stood on an observation platform wearing traditional Velithran ceremonial colors. The bonding ceremony had taken place the night before, witnessed by hundreds. Nari wore human white, a gesture that had moved him to tears. Now he watched Hyun presenting a research project to his class, the boy standing tall and confident. Sumi was publishing her first scientific paper about cross-species integration. Taeyang was teaching his friends a human game called tag. His damaged hand ached in the cold, but Nari's cool fingers were wrapped around it, easing the pain. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Giving up your dream of owning a ship and traveling alone?" Ji-Wan smiled. "I found something better. I found home." The children ran up to them, arguing about something trivial and wonderful. Taeyang crashed into his legs like always. Sumi was already talking about her next research project. Hyun was asking about Earth customs for his history assignment. Ji-Wan pulled them all close, his strange and perfect family. He had risked everything twice to protect them. In return, they had given him something he had searched for his whole life, without knowing it. A place to belong, a purpose, a family that chose him just as he chose them. Forever.